psychology and interpersonal communication. He's going to tell you all about it. Put your hand together and give it up for the incomparable Shane Hunter!
I've had about 20 relationships that have lasted 6 months, so I'm at the point where I'm starting to think it might be a me thing. Apparently this is the first time in human history where there's more women over 30 without kids than under 30 with kids. I don't know what that means, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I am buying a lot of shares in cat food. It's not like there's a lot of good options out there. There's this new thing called fuckboys. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's basically what this gentleman looks like. Now, fuckboys are people who sleep with people, but then they don't commit. And when I first heard this term, I thought, well, that's a bit unfair. Surely, before you commit to something, you want to try it. Like, imagine if someone's like, hey, this is the last food you can ever eat. Do you want to commit to this food? You'd be like, well, can I have a nibble first, please? And then you have a polite, respectful nibble. You're like, oh, yum, 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 delicious, very tasty, wonderful, but not for me, no thank you. You wouldn't be like, oh, well, you're a fuck nibbler. Fuck nibbling, Shane, be that. But then my friend was like, no, Shane, you're a moron. What it is people who lead people on, right? So instead of having a polite, respectful nibble, they might take like a cream bun off the shelf and just like lick all the cream out. Be like, yeah, I want to meet your parents, yeah. Can you see I'm ready to settle down too, yeah. And then they put it back onto the shelf, leaving it for guys like me to find. And I'm like, where did all the sweetness go from this bun? I'm left with nothing but a distrustful bun over here. Where did all the trust go from this bun? I wanted a finger bun, not a finger bun. So don't be a fuck nibbler. That's what I'm saying, right? Because people are insecure enough, right? Like, I think the guys that get face tattoos do it because they're insecure. Not like Polynesian, this is my heritage face tattoo. I mean like energy monster drink face tattoo. Because they think, oh, well, if I get a face tattoo, people treat me with more respect, right? And it's true, you do treat them with more respect because you think, if they're willing to do that to their face, what would they do to my face? Like, these guys don't respect face skin very much. They get more intimidating, so people are more standoffish and shit, and so they're like, fuck, you're still working, I need even more face tattoos. And they get caught into a face tattoo feedback loop. And then the female version of the face tattoo guy are girls with fluoro hair, because in nature, those fluoro colours are to ward off predators, to show that you're poisonous, and it works. 95% of guys go, oh, well, give us some space, you know, except for the 5% of fuckwits she's trying to avoid. And at first place, you have poor judgment who go, oh, let's go talk to Poisonous Frog Girl. How you going there, sweetheart? Hey, what's going on? And she's like, fuck, it's not working. I need even more colours in my hair, until eventually she turns into a tropical fish. And then she's really attracted to a face tattoo guy, and then they have kids, and that's how you get Logan. That's how you get... That's how it happens. That's how poverty starts, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we're here to solve. You know, because I feel like people put a lot of effort into trying to be attractive, right? They'll go to the gym, they'll do all this like shit, you know, Botox or whatever. But like no one ever puts in effort into trying to maintain a relationship. Like, because like every guy I know will go through a phase of getting into martial arts. They'll like, you know, get into boxing or whatever, and they'll like, you know, think they're Rambo, and they have this like macho fantasy that, oh, if anyone breaks into my house, I'll fuck them up. I'll fuck them up. That's what I'll do. That's never going to happen. But what's the worst case scenario that happens if someone breaks into your house? They steal half your shit, right? That's what's going to happen if you have a divorce. Except the cops are going to be on their side. Imagine that. Imagine someone steals half your shit and the cops are there going, oh, well, you should have fucking put the toilet seat down there, mate. You got to learn to listen there, mate, you know? And then after you've had your shit stolen, even if you move houses and you have a whole new life, for 18 years you're paying crime support payments. That's how bad, like, forget home invasion, heart invasion is the most dangerous fucking crime you got to be prepared for. So instead of like going, oh, I'm going to be real, guys should, fuck that, you should be in the gym, just like working on your communication skills. Just instead of doing like shadow boxing, you should just be doing shadow validation. Just be there going, oh, I hear you, I see where you're coming from. Yes, darling, I understand, right? It'll save your life. Got any divorced people in here? Yeah, one brave, sad person up there. Fuck yeah. You know, everyone, that is the ghost of Christmas future over there, guys. Do you guys ever get into an argument?
Twice a day.
Twice a day? What, you schedule in there? What do you guys argue about?
Validation.
About validation. Okay, yeah, that's nice and general. Okay. Yeah.
Ask her. You know.
What do you guys are both very attractive people.
Oh, thanks.
You know? Yeah, there's a bit of validation for you there, mate. There you go.
I'll take tomorrow's off.
You know? That's interesting, right? Because apparently when we argue and like you get flustered and shit, apparently what happens is the blood drains out of your frontal lobes. Like the thinking part of your brain that like can do maths and shit, that just like disappears. And then you're just like left with whatever's left, like the chimpanzee is like your defense lawyer going, no, what do you mean? Fucking, I do validate you. You don't know what you're talking about. And the only organ I know about that the blood drains out of and it stops working is the penis. So I think it would be really useful if we did actually have penises on our heads. That way you could tell when you've lost your shit. Do you know what I mean? Like you'll be there going, no, fucking I did take it out. Calm down, Gary, just breathe. I see where you're coming from. That makes sense, you know? Because you don't know when you've lost your shit, right? You know, like how many times have you heard people go, I am calm? Right? Like that's the only time I've ever heard people say they're calm is when they're screaming, right? Like if you go to the outer suburbs and you listen into the distance, you can just hear people scream, I am calm. You just hear it. You know how like if you go to the ocean, if you pick up a seashell and you hold it to your ear, you can hear the ocean? Right, if you walk past any payphone and you just grab it and put it to your ear, you can just hear someone scream, I am calm. On the other end. I was asking some of my ex-girlfriends, like, that still talk to me, like trying to understand, like, oh, what was like a spastic thing that I did that I like went mental over? And she was like, oh, well, this one time she said she asked me to like spend more quality time together, and I was like, what are you talking about? And then the next day I was just like really like withdrawn and cold, and she was like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm totally fine, right? And like in my brain, like I thought she was attacking me, right? But she was actually just asking to like spend more time. Because I've got like a glass jaw for criticism, right? Does anyone else have that? A bunch of fucking liars, right? Well, I'm the only crazy person here tonight. Well, you guys all just came from the mentally healthy society, did you? Just thought you'd come watch this freak show. What, you're all like psych students going, oh, we're here to study. I've never done anything crazy in my life. Don't know what he's talking about. Divorce lady gets it, don't you? You got it. Apparently, you're more likely to be like defensive. It's like a glitch in nature. You're kind of like going to see threats that aren't there. Like evolutionary, like if there's like a rustling in the bush, it's better to like run than to wait to see if it's a tiger or like a happy, friendly man with a candy or whatever, right? So you better, the guy who's running is going to survive, so our brain's got like a bias for danger. But the only problem is sometimes your girlfriend isn't a tiger. You know what I mean? Because you have to just run away. You can't be there going, oh, I wonder how the tiger feels right now. You know, how do I feel about how the tiger feels? You know, I wonder if the tiger had a bad day. Apparently, like if you've had like a more stressful childhood, you're more likely to have all these ego defenses or like coping mechanisms. So like you would have heard all that shit like denial, projection, rationalizing. Is there anyone here in denial? Rationalizing is something like, you know, we often do. Like I used to do it when I used to smoke weed. I don't smoke weed now, but I always used to rationalize that I was quitting weed tomorrow, right? And it was like, oh, I'm quitting weed tomorrow, but I got a 50 bag here now. And if this is around tomorrow, well then I'll smoke it all. So the only rational thing to do is to smoke it all now. Very responsible, Shane, very immature. Well done. Look at you making great decisions. Yeah, congratulations quitting weed there, mate. Very proud of you. I was seeing this girl in Sydney, and she was like really cool. She was like a yoga instructor, and she was doing a master's in psychology. Very attractive. Her parents were cool. Awesome chick. But then I met a girl in Brisbane who had alcohol problems, right? And I was like, I'm far more interested in alcohol girl. Right? So I ended up breaking up with Sydney girl and just like saying, she's like, oh, I just need space. I'm not ready. You know, just crap, right? And then I started hanging out with Brisbane girl, and then I went down to Sydney, And I said to Sydney girl, hey, he's going to go see Sydney girl right now. Oh, she sounds really cool. I'm gonna go see she sounds like she's single. And then I go to Sydney girl, I'm coming down to Sydney, and she meets up with me, and she's like, oh, what's going on? I said, I started seeing someone in Brisbane, and she's like, why didn't you tell me that before you met up? Like, I wouldn't have fucking come out if you know, and then like she got like shitty, and then I said, oh, just wait 1 second, just a moment, and then I went into the other room in the pub, and I called up Brisbane girl, and I was like, it's over. And she's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm sorry, we're done. And then I went to Sydney girl, I'm like, hey, I'm single now. And then she was like disgusted, and then she left. And in my brain, I was like, see, that's what happens when you try to do the right thing, you know? I could have just fucking, this is why nice guys finish last, you know? You put in the effort, and this is what happens, right? And it's because my fragile little like ego can't handle reality because it'll collapse, so I just have to like make a fucking fantasy, right? And you know, like the other fun thing is projection. You know, I'm sure we're all aware of like, you know, classic example that we kind of all know is like the closet homosexual. It's like, no, you're gay, you're fucking gay, right? You know, like that's why like teenage boys are so insecure, because they haven't slept with a woman yet, so they don't have any real proof if they're not gay. So they're just like so insecure about it. Like, no, you're gay. Everything's gay, right? And I think conspiracy theorists are like a classic example of projection, right? And it's sort of interesting, right? Because on the one level, the interesting thing about projection is on the one level, their brain is somewhat aware of the thing that they're insecure about, like going, oh, you're gay. Like the brain has the answer, but they're not aware that they have the answer. Like they're standing right next to the truth, but they're facing the wrong direction. Like what I mean is like conspiracy theorists. One of my favorite conspiracy theory is this thing called chemtrails, where people think that like the government is spraying poisonous gas when planes drive by, right? And what's interesting to me is the main proponents of this conspiracy theorist are always massive stoners. So I think this is a case of projection. Do you know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, the government's poisonous, spraying poisonous gases that are fucking up our brains. You know, I think it's having a real impact on how our brains are working. You know, the fucking government. The powers to be are really irresponsible, you know? And, you know, when that girl's like, oh, one more quality time, it was like 5 years before I fucking figured that it wasn't like an attack. You know how they say it takes like 10,000 hours to master any skill? Right? Well, if you grow up with like retarded parents, you've had like 10,000 hours of like fucking feeling attacked for no reason, you know what I mean? You become like the Mozart of like danger, you know? And my mum was like a bit of a psycho. Get along with her now, but you know, she wasn't ready to have kids, you know? And I think it's a selfish thing to have kids before you're ready. Sex feels good, right? So my parents got to have like one little moment of like joy to like drown out the nightmare of their existence, where they had one little moment of like, so I could have a lifetime. So I could have a lifetime of you know, not a fair trade, guys. I got diagnosed with ADHD. This is, you know, everyone you know kind of gets this diagnosis now. It's like the new thing. You know, they say it's genetic, but what I mean is like, I think it was hard to concentrate at school, you know, because my mum would just do crazy shit. Like I remember one time, she said she was going to kill herself and me and my sister. So I think it makes it a bit harder to focus at school the next day. You know, when no one's like debriefing you on that shit. You know? Going, Shane, pay attention. Okay, Shane, how do you spell dissociate? Come on. Dissociate. Okay, now maths, Shane. Now, if your mum kills herself, you and your sister, how many are left in the family? Pay attention. Come on, kid. So there's this thing called attachment styles. Right? Now, if you don't heard this is the way, like you have like a little fucking, imagine a computer chip in your brain called your attachment chip, right? And depending on how retarded your parents are, it gets set to a different mode, right? And so there's like 4 attachment styles: anxious, dismissive, fearful, avoidant, and secure. You got a real secure vibe going on, right? And this guy looks a bit dismissive. There you go. He's been paying attention. And so like my mum, right, after I was born, my dad like left her, right? And so she decided this was a fantastic time to start using heroin. You know, a real strategic decision there, Mum. Well done. I think she had a bit of postnatal depression. That's what they call it, but I don't know if it's just reality kicking in. You know, I think postnatal depression is just the female version of postnatal clarity. You know what I mean? What have I fucking done here? Apparently, you get these attachment styles depending on how good your parent is at like attuning to your needs, right? And look, I'm not a scientist. But I think if you're off your face on heroin, it's a little bit harder to attract your parents. You know what I mean? Oh, he's fine. He's fine. You know, although, you know, maybe I got a bit of heroin from her breast milk as well. So you don't know. Someone nodded at that, like that made sense. Oh, well, yeah, I guess. You know. I got what's called the anxious attachment, right? And what this means is that you're never sure if anyone actually likes you. Right? And so I give you an example. Like you're always like a detective, like going, oh, do they really like me? Do they really like me? And like Sherlock's Holmes, trying to always like find proofs that they're going to abandon you. Right? And I'll give you an example, right? I was with a lovely lady, right? And we'd been seeing each other for a while. And this was the first time we slept together and we were going to have sex without a condom. And so while we were having sex, that I noticed that at some point soon, there was going to be some cum in the room. And so I asked her what would she like to see done with this cum? Where do you want this, what is your preference with this cum here? And she said come inside of me. And then in my brain, I literally thought, I can't tell if she likes me. I just can't, like just give me a sign. Like fucking be all cryptic here. Oh, come inside of me. Stop with the riddles! Stop with the riddles! And then there's the dismissive attached. And that's people where like the baby has just decides at some point, so oh, being needy or whatever, the baby's like, oh, I just fucking give up. You know, they're just like, no, I don't need people, mate. People are fucked, right? So that's what my dad has. Like, he doesn't like anyone except for me, right? And so, like, he got cancer and he didn't tell anyone. Like, he just went through all that by himself, right? Because you can't fucking depend on people, mate. You know? And so right now, he's driving around Australia in a van, hoping not to have a conversation with anyone. He's just hoping not to encounter anyone.
He'll be in luck.
Sorry?
There's a lot of land on Australia.
Yeah. I think that was his thinking, yeah. You know, I think there was an underlying logic there, absolutely. Go to some of the least densely populated parts of the planet, because I'm pretty sure he would have gone to Antarctica if that was a viable option. And then there's another style, which is a combination of those two shitty ones, called fearful avoidant. And I went out with a girl who had this style. And it's characterized as go away, don't leave me. And she also had a thing called borderline personality disorder. Now, if you don't know what it is, it's basically like having a black belt for ego defenses. Right? Like nothing was ever her fault, like in the history of her life. And like she would like berate me and stuff and be like, you know, you're a piece of shit, I do better. All right, well, let's break up then. And then she would start crying. And I sort of seen the warning signs, like, because when I met her, I was like younger, trying to like work out my worldview. And so I was like a left-wing activist for a bit. And the first time I met her, she was literally waving around a red flag. She literally was waving a red flag. Oh, she seems cute. Yeah. You know, she seems passionate.
What colour was her hair?
What colour was it? It was fluoro. It was very healthy. And it would often change. And then there's securely touched people, right? Which is only about 50% of the population. So they're people whose like parents were like good, you know, like if they were drawing on a wall or some shit, their parent would be like, sweetheart, love your drawing, but if you do it on the wall, mummy's going to be upset and have to clean it up, right? As opposed to like half of our fuckwit parents are like, don't fucking draw on the wall, you cunt. And so, you know, and which would fry the nervous system again. Like, fuck, I'm back in Vietnam, it's happening again. What's going on? Right? And so, yeah, these securely attached people, you know, you want to, apparently you want to be in a relationship with them, right? If you have one of these insecure attachments, right? Because when you spaz out and you go, oh, Vietnam, they're not going to like react, they're not going to, like, securely attached people are people with like a very strong penis function, you know what I mean? They're on permanent Viagra, like they're not going soft, you know what I mean? They're not going, right? And so, but the problem is with these securely attached people, if you have an insecure attachment style, you're going to find them as boring as fuck. Right? So it's hard to be in a relationship with someone like that. You're like, oh, what happened? You had a great life? Oh, what a cool story, man. You ever been in a cult or some shit? You know, has anything cool happened to you? You know, it's hard to relate to. They're like, oh, your parents love you and they helped you through college and now you're a nurse. Oh, yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, hospitals. Yeah, I've been to a cycle with yeah, lots of common ground. We're really compatible. This is going to work out. But the other thing that makes it hard to attach to a secure person is that there's a lot less of them in the dating market, right? And so, because secure people, they meet another secure person, like, oh, this is fantastic, and then they're gone. They're like you know, we've been married 85 years. They're those people, right? And so the dating market is just full of like fucking traumatized retards in an endless sea of horror, right? And apparently, people who have a dismissive attachment style never date each other. Right? Because they're like, they don't believe in love, right? And so you just have all these anxious and dismissive people like hanging out and it's just a nightmare. And so what I've realized is in order to like increase the odds that you can find a securely attached person, because you just have to wait for, for them to be back in the market, you have to wait for their partner to die, right? For them to come back into the dating market. So what you got to do is you got to wait for a natural disaster. Like just, you know, a tsunami or a fucking earthquake or some shit. Once you see it on the news, you go there, and then there's a lot of securely attached people who are back on the dating market, right? That's the only way you can increase the chances. Look, it's logical. It's fucking logical. I had a friend of mine who was like a gay dude, and it's someone he knew in the gay community died, and he was like, oh, he's dead, that's so sad. And he said it's extra sad because he was a top. And so apparently in the top means like guys who like fucking more than being fucked, right? And apparently that's rarer in the gay community. So like tops are like the securely attached people of the gay life, right? And so he was like, that's a weird reaction when someone dies. We're like, oh, we needed them. We needed a good guy. We don't have any of them, you know? Why couldn't it have been a bottom? Why couldn't a bottom have died? God, if there is a God, like what? That's a weird reaction. And so secures are like the tops, but then of course gay people have attachment styles as well. So imagine how rare a secure top is. You know what I mean? Like that's the fucking, that should be what's at the front of the Mardi Gras float. It's a secure top. You know. It's interesting, right? Does anyone here think they have an anxious attachment style? Anyone feel like they're needy? Yeah, you? As you cling him to death? Yeah, divorce lady over there, yeah? You know, check the news. There might be so people pleasers are like anxious people who are like worried the other person's going to leave them. And they're like, oh, do you need anything? Can I do anything? Can I get you a glass of water? Is there anything I can do for you? Am I breathing too loud? Am I breathing too loud? I can stop breathing. I've stopped breathing for you. I'm not breathing. Is that, now you feel, I don't want you to feel guilty about me not breathing. It's fine. I can go under the floorboards. I can go under the floorboards for you and stop breathing. I just want to know that you're okay. You know, and then they keep doing this and they don't communicate their needs, you know, until eventually they're like, but I was under the floorboards for you. I stopped breathing under the floorboards for you and you don't care. You know, does that sound familiar, divorce wives? 100%, you know. And so they get into like a feedback loop where they go, oh, well, if I communicate my needs, then what happens is I don't get them met and the other person gets angry and they're going to leave me. So I'm going to double down on the people pleasing. And then they just do that for their entire life. Yeah. Yeah, some of these are just things I read in books, guys. So that's a fun time. And then a dismissive person will just be like, what are your feelings got to do with me? I don't understand. What your feelings are yours, not mine. Why are you telling me about your feelings? That's weird. There's all kinds of different therapies, right? But basically, one that I like is called dialectical behavioral therapy, right? And it was invented by this woman called Marsha Linehan, and she's interesting because she had borderline personality herself, but she invented the most effective treatment for it that can actually cure it, which I think is pretty fucking rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? It's like hearing a story about a soldier that got shot and then like dug out his own bullet and then fucking fought the enemy. You know, it's pretty rock and roll, right? And so like one of the things you got to learn to do is like there's a thing called the emotional mind, right? And usually what you do is instead of like just accepting you're having shitty emotions, you'll try to like fucking binge drink or whatever to avoid it, or you'll just like surrender to it and believe that that's reality, right? And so like, you know, growing up in Queensland and being like a straight guy, I thought whenever I had a feeling, if it wasn't anger, it meant that I was gay. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's a bit of gayness. Push that down. Push down the gay. That was actually the slogan for the school I went out. Push down the gay. But it's good, you know, because the more you, even if your emotional reactions are really intense, by listening to them, you can actually learn about your triggers and why you're responding and all that kind of stuff. So for me, the emotional brain is a part of our brain that can't use language or necessarily represent what it wants in symbolism. So it's like, reminds me of like Lassie. Remember that show Lassie? Where like Lassie would come up and do like a pantomime and like, what's that, Lassie? Timmy's talking, well, I'll get the mare, right? It's like that with your emotions. It's like, oh, what's that, Lassie? What's that? I'm worried that she's going to abandon me. Quick, let's go to therapy. You know, let's go to therapy, Lassie. I just remembered a part I forgot about the anxious attachment thing, right? So usually people get worried that they're going to abandon them. They might be like, oh, why are you hanging out with her? Why are you looking at her? And all that kind of stuff, right? Do you do any of that shit?
Yeah.
He says yeah. Hey, look, fucking, 30% of the population has the same issue. You know? No shame here. But I'm just curious, what's the thing? Just tell me, man. Just tell me.
Oh man, I live in Sydney. She lives in Brisbane.
Oh, well, she lives in Brisbane. I live in Sydney. Well, that's not anxiety. That's just you being a cunt. No, but you know, you probably picked him because apparently subconsciously we want to reenact our trauma, right? So you're like, oh, I'll find someone, because it doesn't feel like love if it's not sort of abusive. So that's what you're doing. You've gone, oh, he lives in Sydney where I can fulfill the prophecy of my anxiety, and I confuse that with love because I can't experience those emotions any differently. And so you've chosen this nightmare, and you know, it's sort of interesting. You know how like in America, how they have the Civil War reenactments? Right? Like they dress up in, I don't know if you know this, but in America, like, you know, the Civil War, they wear the Confederate uniforms, and the thing is like, we do that, but it's unconscious. Do you know what I mean? Like we're reenacting like the Civil War of our childhood with our partner, but we can see how they're fucked up, but we can't see how we're fucked up. So we go to couples therapy, and where they're going, oh, all they do is wear the union uniform, you know, talking about, you know, reuniting the America, ending slavery. You know, and the therapists are like, okay, I hear you. Do you know that you're wearing a Confederate uniform? You know, and so like my anxiety didn't manifest with like I need to check, are you cheating on me? For some weird reason, mine was around like worrying about her dying all the time, right? Maybe probably the heroin, right? Yeah, Freud. You know, and so. You know, nothing like a small child with a mum who's OD to fuck you up. And so, like, it was insane, but I couldn't see it at the time. Like, I remember this girl, she liked getting tattoos, whatever, you know. Like, in my sane brain, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. But in my crazy brain, that's like unconscious, I was like, oh, there's like a tiniest chance that some of the tattoo ink is carcinogenic, even though we're having like a million fucking bad things a day. I just got like really obsessed with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, so yeah, I've got like an exotic, you know, my anxiety was a bit more exotic, you know what I mean? So, anyway, fun facts. So I was talking about the DBT stuff, right? So yeah, you got to validate your own emotions, and that's learning to self-soothe because your parents didn't teach you how to do that. Right, and then the other thing you have to do is you have your reasoning part of your brain, right? And what people will do is they'll often confuse judgments for facts, right? Judgments for facts. Like you'll have a judgment about something and you think that's reality, and so you got to train yourself to go. No, what are the facts in the situation? So what I mean is, right? I was watching this podcast about in ancient Rome. If the generals ever lost a war or a battle, what they would do is they'll commit suicide. right? And they were seen as being like really honorable, the honorable thing to do. And like in Japan, the samurais, if they, they would commit suicide, it was seen as honorable. So this whole time, I've just been having really honorable thoughts all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I'll fuck something up and I'll be like, oh, I should just fucking kill myself. The honorable thing to do is kill myself, right? So like if you have a judgment, go, oh, they're a piece of shit, I'm a piece of shit, you just go at the facts. So like, no, you were just late for the thing, right? So you got to train yourself to do that, right? And with the whole judgment thing, what's the other? Oh yeah, and that's why, you know how they say like if you're in a relationship, you should say like I statements. And I said like, oh, you live in Sydney, you don't like me. Right? Instead of doing that, you got to be like, I feel like very lonely when you're gone, right? You got to use those I statements, right? But like I was telling my friend this, but like it takes a while to get, because my friend was like annoyed at like work with some of his co-workers. So it's like, oh, when you don't want to argue with them, just use this I statements. It's like, okay, I feel like they're fuckheads. Not quite, mate. Close, but no cigar. But you want to learn how to like symbolically identify and represent your needs without getting stuck into this like, because when you get like upset, you turn into like a prosecutor in a court where you go like, well, the charge sheet is you've been late. And you fucking do this thing, and blah, 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 and what are they going to respond with? Like, oh fuck yeah, I'm so excited to meet your needs now. I love being in the fucking witness stand. Another thing that's good to do is meditating, like because what you're doing is it's like increasing the health bar for the video game character that you are. So if you like meditate, you do like mindfulness stuff, right? Because it's really boring. Everyone's like, I can't meditate. It's like, no one can meditate. I'm pretty sure the Buddha fucking hated it, right? It's like, this is the most boring shit I've ever fucking done. Right, but what you do is you're doing like reps for shit you don't want to do, right? And just calming yourself down and getting your focus back. So basically, you're like doing reps for the penis brain, right? That's what you're doing. So, and then you're becoming aware of how your body feels. So when you spaz out, oh, I'm feeling spazzy. I'm feeling spaz, come on. Right, and then there's another form of meditation, one called loving kindness, right? And what you got to do is you got to think of someone like you really like or whatever, like a friend or whatever, and then how you wish them well, and then you apply that to some neutral person you saw on the bus, and you think about how you wish them really well or whatever, and then you apply it to someone who's kind of been annoying you, and then you apply it to yourself and then the whole world. And I did this once. And then I text my family, because afterwards I just felt like I was on mushrooms, like everything had a go. It just felt amazing. And then I texted my family, I just want you guys to know that I love you. And they just wrote back, is everything okay? And I was like, no, I just want you to know that I care about you a lot. And they were just like, we're putting $50 in your bank account. We're really worried about you. Is you also like want to read books on how like normal people communicate and just like read heaps of case studies? So you can get that into your brain. So when your brain starts going penis brain, you've got a go-to. So what I mean is in aeroplanes, when they do that stupid shit where the aeroplane lady is like, and when the mask comes down in the unlikely event of emergency, you put on, right? So people who just tune out and don't pay attention to that, if the cabin does get depressurized, they go into a fight or flight, like penis brain state, right? And they just go into like a lizard defense and they don't know what to do and they just stay there and they die, right? Because your brain's so overwhelmed, you can't just do the obvious thing of putting the mask on. But if you saw them do it, your brain's got like one little neuron left that can fucking do that, right? And so you want to be like read this shit and go, oh, in the unlikely event of an emotional disturbance, you want to respond. So like, but you know, if you've had like a shitty family or whatever, instead of like not only do you not know what to do right, you have like bad ways of dealing with it, right? So it would be like me on an airplane and the thing drops. And instead of putting it on, I just start screaming, Allah Akbar. Death to America, death to America, Allah Akbar. Like, oh no, you didn't. That's what the airplane lady said, the air stewardess. If the air stewardess was my mum, that's what would have happened. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we scream Allah Akbar. There's all these skills that you can learn, right? But people don't know. Dude, how many people do you think in fucking Logan know what an attachment style is? You know what I mean? Like there's people walking around just reacting to shit going, I can't believe everyone I ever met was a dickhead. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. So not only do these skills like help you get more cuddles and less drama and shit, but it's the same part of your brain that it also activates when it comes to like friends and like co-workers and shit, right? And like you're more likely to get promoted and all this kind of stuff. Managers, right? 42% of what a manager does is deal with interpersonal conflict. So they have to pay some guy more than everyone else and half the job is stopping Susan and Gary having a biff. So, okay, you aggregate that in this like chains of managers and then across society, up and down, that's billions of dollars a year that we have to pay because Susan and Gary can't get along. Right? That's billion. That if you do that over decades, that's like the difference between having a recession and growing the economy. Like that's the housing crisis sorted out. If we could get fucking Susan and Gary to fucking shut the fuck up and listen to each other for one fucking second, we wouldn't have the housing bubble. Right? You're going, oh, it's COVID, oh, the Reserve Bank, oh, interest rates. No, it's Susan and Gary. Right? Oh, the Reserve Bank, no, it's because half the planet is emotionally retarded. Right? You know, and then if you know, over decades, that could be the difference between going to war with another country, right? If everyone's like less resources, right? The human species could go extinct from a nuclear war because Susan and Gary can't get along, right? Susan and Gary causes all this drama. We have to pay someone else to fucking, and then that person gets stressed. And then we have to pay someone else him to deal with him fighting with the other man. It just goes on and on. You know, and what do you think? Anthony Albanese's fucking gonna be able to handle this shit? I don't think so. Right?
The director of Home Affairs just get fired for that?
Sorry?
Didn't the director of Home Affairs just get fired for that? For not being able to get along with Susan?
The director of Home
Affairs.
Home Affairs got fired for not getting along with people.
Oh, he was like, he had a right-wing agenda, so he kept trying to put, he wanted Peter Dutton, leader of the Liberal Party.
She's gonna go try and take the job. That's
like, he didn't, like, he was happy with the asylum seeker situation.
Oh, I didn't hear about that because my brain's already filled up with my own resentments.
He's off meditating.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like totally...
No, I appreciate your input, but does anyone else want to turn this into an episode of Q&A? Does anyone else want to the Minister for Home Affairs and this right-wing agenda? But, you know, so what I'm trying to do, right, is I'm trying to get a whole bunch... Oh, the other thing, I just remembered another point, right? So when you're emotionally, like, blind and stuff, so the better you get at, like, hearing Lassie and stuff, the better you'll see other people's behaviour, not as their actions, but what they're feeling behind their actions, right? And so, like, right. So what I used to do to one of my ex-girlfriends is she would come home and talk about her work dramas and be like, oh, and I would just be like, oh, well, why don't you just tell Susan? Like, what do you... Like, and then I wouldn't understand, like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, do you want me to kill Susan? I'll go kill her. I don't understand why you keep telling me this story. I don't know, it's the same story every day, right? But apparently, like, she just wanted someone to fucking, like, support her emotional shit. And so now I realize how dumb I was. It was sort of like, imagine if someone got hit by a car and their leg got broken and their knee was, like, sticking up, right? And then they're like, help, I need help. And then you run over and go, okay, now what you got to do is you got to look both ways. Pay attention. No, I am helping. I'm hearing a lot of complaining, right? Do you want to solve this problem or do you want to have a whinge? I'm here to fix it. I don't know why you're whinging. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a dating app like Tinder, same shit as Tinder and all that fucking shit. Right? It's all the same shit, right? Yeah. It's all the same shit. And then, but there'll be like one little button, they'll make it different when you click on it. And then it's got like all this like emotional skill building shit, right? And you know, maybe get a team of comedians to make it as funny as possible, right? And then this is where the smartness comes in. What you do is that people who do those courses get higher ranked. So you know how sad people will pay money to boost their profile, right? It's like that, where you boost your profile the more you do these emotional skill building things. So you're actually gamifying people's sadness and horniness and loneliness to make people less emotionally retarded. So Gary and Susan don't end up causing a nuclear war, right? And if you're interested in that, I'll be doing a GoFundMe or whatever those things are. I'll have a QR code on my phone after the show. And that's been the show, guys. Thanks so much for coming.